For the love of Chicago, I am Tom Barnes in the West Garfield Park neighborhood. This is the eastern edge of the West Garfield Park neighborhood, which is also known as Garfield Park itself. But is it fair to assume Paul Durica over at the Chicago History Museum, is this west of Garfield Park?
West Garfield Park is west of Garfield Park. That's where it derives its name from. Its eastern boundary is Hamlin, which is kind of like the western end of the park.
So how does this differ from actual Garfield Park, Paul?
West Garfield Park is very similar to the community to its east. Begins, as an area where there's agriculture, little bits of the prairie that survive. Eventually, transportation is expanded west, including the elevated train lines, what today we know as the Green Line along Lake Street. But you also have electrified streetcars that leads to a boom in building residential housing, and also the creation of a commercial strip along Madison Street, but really kind of centered around Madison and what in the 19th century would have been Crawford, what is today Pulaski, which remains a kind of commercial hub west of Garfield Park to this day.
Like a lot of other community areas in the city, there's a main drag, a commercial area, if you will. I guess that's Madison, is it, Paul?
Yeah, Madison's kind of like one of the main streets, right? It starts there right at State and Madison, right at the kind of heart of the city's business district, and extends west. And it really is the kind of main commercial artery through East Garfield Park and then farther west into West Garfield Park.
So there's a funny story about things getting a little weird with a failed experiment in West Garfield Park. Paul explains.
Once you get past Pulaski, things get a little interesting and weird in West Garfield Park. You might start to notice a pattern. And the pattern is that all the north-south streets start with a K for a certain point. And that is an area along with bits of Lawndale to the south that's known collectively as K-Town, really just because the north-south streets start with the letter K and also go alphabetically, right, from east to west. And that's kind of part of what was a kind of failed experiment. The idea was to start at the Illinois and Indiana line, and then after you got out to a certain point within the city of Chicago, have all of the streets kind of progress alphabetically as a kind of organizational tool, but never really kind of took off beyond K-Town.
So our city has evolved over the years. This used to be the outskirts of the city. It wasn't even part of the city until it was annexed into the city. So the history of the people that have lived here goes far back. Paul?
So what you would have found there are initially Irish and German communities, then later Italian American communities and Russian Jewish communities. And then, after the Second World War, the neighborhood begins to kind of transform from being majority white to majority black.
So obviously when you're in the area, you can go down the boulevard and it's absolutely stunning, some of the houses. But what are the other houses like in West Garfield Park?
West Garfield Park, like East Garfield Park and Austin, are first and foremost residential neighborhoods. And that in some ways contributes to their unique character, but it also kind of contributes to some of their challenges as well, because it limits the amount of nearby economic opportunities for the people who call those places home. And so you've got, your standard 2 flats and 3 flats, which are great for housing families, but they also could be carved into even smaller units, and you kind of start to sort of see that happening in the post-war years as more people are kind of moving from some other parts of Chicago to West Garfield Park, but new housing isn't necessarily being built to accommodate them.
So Paul Durica, tell me about the building, the landmark building in West Garfield Park that has ties to a dancing school in Al Capone, only in Chicago.
One landmark of the neighborhood is something known as the Goyen Hotel, named for a gentleman who ran a dancing school. It was completed in the late 1920s, and this was fairly common. Today when we think about hotels, we think about Chicago's Loop, right? And all the hotels that you see on Michigan Avenue, for example. But it wasn't uncommon for neighborhoods across Chicago in the 1920s to have what were essentially residence hotels. The Edgewater on the north side is a good example of one of these, or the still standing Shoreland building down in Hyde Park is another example. And in West Garfield Park, you had this really beautiful building designed by Jens Jensen, but not the Jens Jensen. Oddly enough, there was another architect with the same name, but not the landscape architect, who had worked on Garfield Park itself, who designed the Goyen Hotel for this guy who owned a ballroom and was really interested in basically like ballroom and formal dancing. He really was suspicious of the new kind of jazz age dances and thought that they promoted licentious behavior. And so he wanted to create a clean space for people to learn the dances that he preferred to teach. Interestingly enough, though, the hotel that he creates, he quickly loses ownership of it because, 1928 into 1929, the beginning of the Great Depression.
Sure.
And the new owners, they don't care as much about having very formal dances. Instead, they'll rent rooms to people like Machine Gun Jack McGurn, who was one of Capone's enforcers. And so you'll see the Goyen Hotel as the site of some incidents involving crime during the Prohibition era. But that building survives to this day. It's actually on the National Register of Landmark Places. And in 1986, former President Jimmy Carter stayed for a time at that hotel because he was in the area doing some work for Habitat for Humanity.
West Garfield Park has an exception to the transit rule. There's a whole bunch of them. Paul runs down the list.
I mean, you had two really great systems. You had three. I mean, you had the elevated train lines, which, today we know as it would have been called the Lake Street L, but today we know it as the Green Line. You actually had like a very, elaborate streetcar system, an electrified streetcar system. None of that exists anymore, but that was another way to kind of get from the far west side into the loop. And then, of course, you had the railroads themselves. What today we know is like a lot of the metro lines,
Right.
of course, were originally connected to other railroad lines that, of course, connected Chicago to other cities, but you could still use them to kind of commute from your neighborhood into the loop. And so you had all these different ways to go from west to east into the city center. And so these were really kind of seen as being sort of suburbs within the city in some ways.
Listen to the sights and sounds of the West Garfield Park neighborhood right here on Madison and Costner. I'm outside of Out of the Pass Records. It is the business I will feature for this Love of Chicago episode. I'm going to talk to longtime owner now for this Love of Chicago story at Out of the Pass Records. Since 1986, records have been playing here at Out of the Pass Records in West Garfield Park, and I'm here with the owner. Marie, how you doing?
I'm fine.
So you've been here for a little bit as far as this record store. Since 1986, you guys just celebrated an anniversary.
The 40th anniversary of the store.
So it's been a record store since 1986, but there was plenty of things happening before it was a record store. Marie, tell me about it.
This, before it became a record shop, it was a automobile sales thing. They used to sell cars in here.
A dealership.
And from there, it went to the neighborhood recreation center where they shoot pools and play checkers and stuff like that. And then it went on to become a church.
Really?
Stayed a church for several years, and out of that, we bought it.
You bought
it?
it?
Became a record shop.
Marie has a fantastic story of how her and her husband, Charlie, decided on what business to actually stick with because they had a few. Listen up.
We started out because I had went to a place and I saw it. This gentleman had a small shoe shine shop and he had records in it. And so when I came back to my husband's photographer studio, and it was at 8 South Pulaski in 63, 66, in 63, and I imported on him. I said, maybe we should start a record store. And so then we started getting records in. And we've been a record store since, but we did have several more businesses. And I'd have to go into a line of details to tell you about it. We went into the record shop. We used to have a wig store, a hat store. We had a small restaurant, and we still have the records. So this is the one that panned out the best for us.
And you heard it right, Out of the Pass has lasted the longest. But why?
We started, like I say, we moved over here in the neighborhood in 1963. My husband his job had laid him off. And he was walking around the neighborhood, and he said, I think I want to open me a business, because he loved doing photographer.
Okay.
And I told him, well, fine. So he
What was
went
your
down.
husband's name?
Charlie. His name was Charlie Henderson. And he went down to the Pulaski and Madison. Was a beautiful shopping area there. And right there where Old Church's Chicken on Pulaski, he had a little shop there. A little guy had a shop there. And he told him he could come in and put up a photographer studio in there. Oh. And so that's how he started the photographer business. And from there, we started the record business.
And you had several along the way, and you ended up here in 86, where this has lasted the longest all these years.
This has lasted the longest. We shut everything down and decided to concentrate on about 3 stores. And then we just wind up here the longest.
So listening to this story, Marie, are you finally retired?
Semi-retiring because I left it up now to my granddaughter, Anissa, and she's doing a nice job, a beautiful job on it. So I come in just to help out when she needs me.
So both Marie and Charlie believe strongly in community, education, and Black history. That is why there are posters up on the walls for children to come in and learn about their Black history. Marie, tell us about it.
You tell the teachers if they come in, bring your kids in, you know, so they can learn about music, because now most young people do not know what a 45 or LP is, a cassette or 8-track. So it's nice that if people begin to bring their children in so they can learn some of the different things that music has traveled into, because it's if the past goes from the 40s up to now, and people are beginning to realize that music is a gift. It's a gift, and they should learn to enjoy it. And so if they would love to, they can bring their kids in and they can sit down. We even have a record player over there, so when people come in, they can play their own music and see what they like about it, about the records or the 45s and stuff.
40-year anniversary this year, out of the past records. What has made it stand the test of time?
Music doesn't grow old. Music enhances the people's life. So sometimes when you feel like you got a little problem or something, if it's something you like in music, you put it on. They say music soothes the soul, so music helps you get along with the day. And it depends on what you're listening to, but I think music, the greatest gift from Jehovah is music. And it doesn't tell us that we can't enjoy it. It just say be careful, and you know, you have to choose what you listen to. So from all the centuries long up to now, music has always been a gift to man, you know. So I enjoy the people that come in and get it, and they enjoy their music, and they seem to love coming here, because sometimes when they come, they meet friends that they haven't seen since high school. And then we have a new generation now. Lately, we've been getting a lot of parents bringing their children in, and the kids are getting blues. You'd be surprised at the age, 9 or 10 years old, they're listening to blues. And you say, I can't believe this, but it's music, and they enjoy it, you know. And we still have the old music, like they listen to Marvin Gaye, they listen to the Temptations, they listen to the Beatles, they listen to different guys, it's like Aerosmith. I got young people looking for old records on them. You'd be surprised what they're looking for, but they come in and they enjoy themselves.
So many of you have been to a lot of record stores, I realize, but this record store is a little different. They still sell original 8-tracks, among many other things, right, Marie?
Well, we might say yes in some ways, because a lot of it is, like I say, we had at least 10 stores. And we shut them down as we went along. As you start getting up in age, you can't handle them all. So we have a large quantity because we compile everything. And this was the reason why we opened up this store, because we had everything congested. And so we open it up, and as a few years go by, you blend it in, and then people, you know, come in and we order more music and stuff, and we just keep it going.
And just like any business that's lasted a long time in a certain neighborhood, it's more than just a business. It's a community hub.
I would say yeah, because you might come in and see somebody you haven't seen in years. You might come in and look for a record you didn't know still exists, and it gives you joy. And so a lot of times when we have people come in, they say, hey Marie, you got so-and-so, so-and-so. I say, go look for it. And we organize it now where they can come in and just browse. And as you can see from the 45s, this is just a portion of what we have.
Yeah, look at it. This is just a portion.
We're organizing the store so we can put these 45s out and open.
Right, because we're on Record Store Day Eve, so you're getting ready for that.
Yeah, we're getting ready for Record Store Day. And we're doing the $1 for LP sale when we do that, because we know people come in looking for certain records, but they buy a lot of different records, and they enjoy themselves.
So being that Marie's owned a record store longer than Record Store Day has been around, I asked her, how does she feel about it?
It's nice because now you get a variety. I always have had a variety of people coming in, because I've had people come from Europe. We get a lot of our customers now. I think with the things shut down now, we don't see them, but we usually have customers. We have our customers, they come from Germany, they come from Japan, They come from Korea, they come from England, they come from France. So we get a variety of buyers in to looking for records, and they look for LPs and they look for 45s, but they come and they enjoy themselves.
Right, because 45s are really hard to come by these days.
Yeah, they are, and they're really good, and it's good to have them, and that's what I like about people. Young couples are bringing their children in and they're introducing them to these 45s, and it's a good thing for them to do because most kids are tied up with the computers and the phones and stuff. But now I notice a lot of customers come in that have younger children. They're buying record players, and they're making them children. They bring their kids in and let them get used to music now.
And like I talked about before, yes, they have records, they have tapes, they have CDs, DVDs, Laserdiscs, and 8-track tapes. Yes, original 8-tracks.
Yeah, we have 8-tracks and cassettes too.
That's incredible. And these are original. These aren't repurposed,
no,
right?
These are originals. They are reissuing them. They are reissuing now cassettes, certain cassettes, like they reissue LPs. And when people are looking for records, a lot of them say, "Oh, I got the original." But over the period of years, they have reissued a lot of records. So some of them are the original copies in here, and some of them are the reissue copies.
But still, 8-tracks though. Those are hard to come by.
8-tracks is very hard to come by. Nobody make them, but I still have a few.
You still have a few.
That's
a little wink in that. I like it.
I still have a few.
So right when you walk into the place, you're greeted with the Hall of Fame of Out of the Past records. Marie, tell me about it.
I've been here for a long time, and so we started out with people coming in that knew us, and we have a photographer. His name is Bob Mitzlech. He comes in some weekend, and what we do is when our customers come in and the store is real crowded, we'll say, "Take a picture, let us put it on the wall," to let it know you've been here. So now everybody comes in, they want their pictures on there. They want these pictures on that wall, and we call it the Hall of Fame.
I love it.
If you've been in Out of the Past, you're going to be in the Hall of Fame. So we have a lot of customers there that come in, and they still come back. A lot of them come and see themselves out there, and they enjoy it.
So having a record store for over 40 years, I had to ask Marie, what's her vibe? What does she like listening to when she's all by herself in that record store?
I like Dusties. I like all music. But 60s and 70s music and the 80s music, that's kind of my line. And I like a little jazz, so I just like all music. So if I'm in here, I put something on that's soothing for me.
What's the 45 that you would want if you didn't own a record store and you just got a new record player? What would be the 45 that you would buy if you could only pick one? No pressure, but you're a record store owner, so I gotta ask.
Well, if I was gonna pick it, because of what I started out with and what made people notice us was the record that we first sold down on 8 South Pulaski. Sometimes I listen at it because I think about my father and I think about how my husband raised our kids. And I think about my grandfather, and it was Color Him Father by the Winstons. So sometimes when I'm in here, I always I have a variety of records on a CD, and I would sometimes put it on. But my favorite record of all is for my husband. I used to always love that Life in the Country was a good one for me because it always realized that as you get older, you have something soothed about it. That he's deceased now, but I always think about that song, Life in the Country.
So Marie and Charlie have owned many businesses right along Madison Street here, and I asked her, what's her favorite part about owning a business in West Garfield Park?
Hoping that my granddaughter would continue running it, to keep it open, because we know a lot of people in the neighborhood tells us they appreciate us still being here, because records that they can't find and music they can't find, they can always come here, we can accommodate them in finding it. So my funnest joy is maybe, even though I may not be around, but if she continue, we don't know how long everything would go, but if she continue doing it, it would be, even with the people that I've had, people that have been here with me to give me a hand, there's several of them, I appreciate them staying with me to keep it open this long so that she give a chance to run it. So it's a joy to have it. And I'm glad that people know it's here. Some people say they never knew we was here, but now they begin to recognize that. And as the years go by, I just appreciate everybody coming in to see the store, and they're admirers, and they're surprised at how it is,
So most people don't typically stay in a place very long if they don't like it, let alone own a business for 40 years in one spot. I asked her, what about this spot here that she loves so much?
When we first started out in our businesses, my husband said that to have a business, you have to be close because you never know what's going to happen. So when we bought the home over there on Monroe in the 4300 block, he said, we're going to stay here because it's logic. At one time we were deciding to move to the suburb, but then he said, who got a business where you can just walk 4 blocks down the street and you're home. You come back at night, you're 4 blocks from your home. So he said, let's stay stable. So we say stable right in this area and it was great for me because when I first came in, we had all the basic stores on Madison from Pulaski up to our area. We had a lot of different beautiful stores, the clothing stores and stuff. So it wasn't no reason for me to move out the neighborhood.
A record store tends to be like a community hub. People come in there and they talk. And with 40 years in business on Madison Street in the West Garfield Park neighborhood, I asked Marie, what are they like, the folks that come in and shop at this record store?
I know people in the neighborhood. Most of my neighbors are gone. They moved or passed away, but most people that come in here, they know me, you know, they haven't seen me for 3 years. I was away because my husband was sick, but now I come in now and they be glad to see me, I'll be glad to see them. But most of the people that come in the store, they've been coming in here for years. So they faces, I'm not good at names, but faces I know, and they seem to enjoy coming in because now they greet people and they're like a family. We call it a family store. So we always tell customers when they're welcome to the family, and when they come back several times to buy stuff, we look up and we see them. We say, oh, go on, you know home, you're at home, just do what you want to do.
That is For Love of Chicago in the West Garfield Park neighborhood. My name is Tom Barnes, thomas.barnas@cbs.com. If you have a For Love of Chicago story, but look at this space here. We're going to talk about Garfield Park, but the eastern edge of West Garfield Park is Garfield Park with some beautiful architecture. Look at this building here. Be sure to come out and enjoy your city, everybody.